What comes to mind when you hear the words second class citizen? Now, I don't know about you, but the first thing I felt was this book is either going to be a book about race or womanhood. Now, was I correct? Anyway, let's find out. This is a book review on second class citizen by Buchi Emecheta. Now, if you're a Nigerian, you most likely recognize her if you schooled in Nigeria and if you took literature classes. You recognize this name by another popular work of hers, which is Joys of Motherhood. And this book, just like the book Joys of Motherhood, just kind of overwhelms you. You guys, I made notes so I would not forget everything that I want to talk about. This book, Second Class Citizen, is set in Lagos and London. It follows the main character, Adah, from her childhood in Lagos to adulthood in London. One of the things I like about this book is that it kind of jumps right into the action. You get a feel of what this book is about from the very first page. It introduced this character who was an 8-year-old at Ibuza. She wasn't exactly sure what her age was because she was a girl. There was no proper documentation for her because no one wanted a baby girl. They were expecting a boy, most likely. That kind of sets the tone. So when you hear second class citizen, you know, okay, we're going to be talking about what it means to be a woman then. This book is basically a story of a modern woman trapped in the earlier times. She was very ambitious, she was stubborn, mischievous, very, very determined. I mean the main character, Adah. She was simply too much for a woman at that time. Setting the tone like this, describing what it was for her to go to school, how she eventually got a scholarship into school and even made it to the university. It kind of tapers off when Adah had to get married to this guy called Francis, and everything just went downhill from there because this man actively tried to snuff the light and the life out of her. I was provoked several times when I was reading this story. Let me talk about the writing style. Now, for someone like me who has been reading non-fiction books for years now, jumping into this fiction story and especially African literature, where our African writers love their words. They can describe a cold drink as something so grand. They will use all kinds of flowery languages, and it was a bit of a shock to me coming from the non-fiction genre, because for non-fiction you have to be cut, you have to be direct. There is no time for flowery words. You don't use it unless it's absolutely needed. And with non-fiction books, specifically self-help books, it's hardly ever needed because you need to hit people where they want it. And that you do that by getting straight to the point and using, very short, simple language. So it was quite the shock for me when I was reading this book, and there were some, long-winded ways of describing things. And I can't even say I'm mad, because that is exactly what makes fiction. The author, in this case Buchi Emecheta, was able to make her readers feel every single thing she was feeling there. Might I add that this is like a fictionalized autobiography of her. So when you are reading this book with the mindset that, see, this is not just any random character, this is actually something that mimics the life of the author, you even get more pissed. There are lots of moments where we felt like her husband Francis will redeem himself, or she would just redeem herself by leaving. But those moments did not come, or at least as quickly as we wanted it. So we watched Adah go through abuse, both from her husband to the society that she found herself. It was crazy. She was staying with her in-laws alongside her husband, and she talked about going to London. Her father-in-law discouraged her because, once again, she's a woman, and instead somehow they sent her husband Francis to London on her dime. You guys, she's the one actively funding for this. This guy was someone who just believed that, he's God's gift to women. He refused to work throughout the story. He refused to work. He refused to, get anything done. So they basically relied on Adah. She was the one carrying the whole family. It was maddening. I can't even lie. It was really, really crazy. From this, we can describe the main themes here as education, immigrant life, and racism. Yes, we saw a bit of racism there at play. Sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle. We also see internalized racism. I'm looking for the perfect word because we saw this ambitious character Adah try to get things done her way, even when she eventually joined Francis in London. She did not believe or see herself as less than. Francis, her husband, on the other hand, had internalized, the concept that he was a second-class citizen, that he was inferior to the whites. And he tried so hard to make her see herself as one, and she simply wasn't having it, which is another issue that she had in her marriage, because most times she just wanted to go this way and he would just want to go the other way. So he was not only a lazy man, he also had the wrong mindset. Even while he was in London, she was the one taking care of his schooling, and Francis simply did not do well in school. Eventually, she begins to see the light. She gets a job amidst having multiple pregnancies. She got a job, and as she interacted with other people, the author was gracious enough to allow us peek at what was going on in her head at every point in time. Each time she saw or heard the story of a lovey-dovey couple, we can see the subtle hints in the story about how she misses that and how she feels bad that she doesn't have that. And then somehow it's also shrugged off because you see the determined part of her, rising up again that, oh, well, if she can't have this, she can have this. Or always making a concession somewhere. The book is maddening. I'm not gonna lie. You simply keep rooting for Adah. You just want to see her win. The main thing I like about this book is that it's real. It's something you can tell is happening. This was even before I realized that it's actually an autobiography, sort of. Finally, I would say this was a very beautifully written book. Do I recommend? 10 over 10. So my next book now will be Storyworthy. They actually have a YouTube page here, Storyworthy the book. You can go check it out. But like the name implies, it's something about telling stories. It's a non-fictional book, but it is a book that I believe will help me become a better storyteller. And that's what the book promises. So fingers crossed for that. And yes, I'm going to give a review when I'm done. Bye.